Good morning, shed dwellers, and welcome back to Shedmouth Junction. Today we're going to be looking at a bit of a question that's been floating around the internet quite a lot on YouTube and Facebook, and it's a question about getting youngsters into our hobby. What affects that? What factors can encourage or discourage people getting into our hobby? So yes, unless you have been living on the moon of late, if you're into this hobby, you would have noticed basically that pretty much everyone's YouTube channel and Facebook comments have been all about prices of model railways going through the roof to astronomical levels. This in itself is obviously a problem. And also the other question that's come along is how is this affecting children and youngsters getting into the hobby? And I thought initially I was going to keep myself to myself over this, wasn't going to get involved. It's been covered by many people very, very well. So there's not a lot of point in me sticking my oar in. However, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, actually, do you know what? I've got a youngster working with me on our channel. Bless her, as you all know her, little Evie. She is now 12 and she regularly comes out here and helps me with my channel. So I kind of thought maybe I could shed a bit of light on how Evie's got involved in the railway and kind of maybe answer some questions as to how that's come about. So I think we're going to start off the video looking at, it's quite relevant actually, is how I got into railways as a kid and where we are now. Very quickly, quick overview of that. Then we'll look at how Evie's come into being involved in the railway, which might shed a bit of light how that's happening. And then we can at the end look at some questions that are kicking around within amongst the hobby. Okay, so first off, let's start from the start. How did I get started in model railways? Back in sort of the mid-80s, I was 5-6 years old. And really, you look at what was on children's TV predominantly at that time was Thomas Tank Engine. You couldn't avoid the little chap. He was hacking around the island of Sodor like a teenager in a Vauxhall Nova. And to be honest with you, as a 5 or 6 year old, the imagination, this was something totally blowing your mind as a kid, you know. And you wanted to replicate that. Kids do that. They like to mimic what they see on TV, what they see on YouTube nowadays, that sort of stuff. And they want to get involved in that particular thing. And Thomas was everywhere. Every kid at school had a Thomas lunchbox or something, you know. So naturally, you have a seed planted that railways are kind of cool. And so I'd imagine most children who are into Thomas at the time would at some point have had some kind of Thomas train set, clockwork or electric. I started off the clockwork set, Thomas set, and gradually moved along as I got slightly older. So you have this little seed planted of a hobby idea. And that can be influenced by many things, by TV, as I've already said, and the internet, or quite simply by your parents. Children, I think, are a perfect replica of what we do. If they see us doing something, sometimes, most of the time, they want to do that same thing because they think that's the norm. You know, my dad was very engineering based with his mechanics, and so I grew up wanting to know about engineering and that sort of stuff and how things work, and I'm interested in engines and stuff that moves and how does it move, you know. These days parents tend to sit in front of their telephones or play PlayStation games. That's an era they grew up with, so kids these days naturally want to follow that path because that's what they see most of the time. Now, I lost my train of thought there. Get it? Train of thought. Yeah, so there I was with my train set, and it kind of grew and grew and grew. And if I did get pocket money, which was quite a rare thing, we didn't have lots of money, and pocket money was not something that really we went with as a family. But what I did have, I'd go and buy little bits from the model shop. Sometimes like a little signal or some trees. That's a couple of £3 here and there, nothing too major. The shop at the time would have a little second-hand section of locos, which started about sort of £9-10 for an 040, up to £20-30 for something a lot bigger. And new locos were still back then quite expensive considering the wages that were around. So that's the initial interest started in the hobby as a child, watching Thomas and your first little train set. So what happened after that? And this is quite relevant. Lots of other things in my household were prominent. We had Skelectric set, which was brilliant. We loved it to pieces. My dad was into radio controlled stuff as well. A few Tamiya models kicking around the house. And so models in general were quite a prominent thing of my growing up. I'd build Tamiya Formula 1 cars. By the age of about 10, 11, 12, I was building Tamiya models. And then I kind of hit high school, and like the kind of age where Evie's at now. And children, I do believe, are influenced quite a lot by their peers. They get a bit of peer pressure here and there. If you're in a group of mates who are into mountain biking or they're into computer games, it's very hard to stand in that group of mates and prattle on about your train set. It's very difficult. And I found that certainly at school. None of my mates were into model railways in the slightest. They were all into, funnily enough, radio-controlled cars and mountain bikes. So RC cars came along. I had my train layout in my bedroom at the same time, but you could feel it gradually slipping back in the list of priorities. And then you get to like your mid-teens, you grow hairs and you hack around on a 50cc motorcycle thinking of the badgers and adgers, and from there on in things just the toys got more expensive. By the time I hit my mid-20s, I worked in the motorcycle industry, so I was working in a bike shop. It's a lot of fun, but it's quite expensive. And then I met my good lady, Mrs. Shedmouth, and we wanted to settle down and have a family. So the motorcycle kind of was like a really expensive thing. Off it went. And by that point, I'd already kind of gone back to racing model cars, but rather than just playing around in car parks with them, I joined a race car club and actually started racing properly. So racing all around the country in various clubs. And then as time's gone on further now, we've had Evie and she's come along, and fast forward another, 10, 15 odd years, and Tracy's job's changed and our situation's changed where I can no longer race. So we've gone right back to that early hobby of model trains. Why model trains again now? 100% because of the seed that was planted from watching Thomas the Tank Engine on telly as a kid. Okay, so let's have a look at Evie and how she has become involved in this hobby. Now, I think the question we need to ask ourselves isn't how do we get kids into model railways. I think that's the wrong question to ask. I think the proper question we need to ask is how do we get them involved in model railways? Not necessarily into it, but involved, okay? And the reason I say that is Evie is not into model trains. No matter how much I like to think she is not into model railways. If I gave her a choice of what to do, she would do what most children would like to do at the moment. Not all, but a lot of children. They would dial up their mates on a Zoom chat and play an online game with a group of 5 or 6 of their schoolmates who don't live local. They can't go and meet them. They have their social lives conducted through an electronic gadget. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that's all kids, but the majority of kids will have this available to them to use as a form of a social network for them. And if I said to Evie, do anything you like, that's pretty much, I think, what she would do. However, she is involved in model railways. And the way that has come across is kind of lots of elements to get her involved in what I'm doing. I'll run through a few of them now. The first one is being creative. I try to make railways in here fun. I don't come out here with a brilliantly prototypical railway and go, right, we need to weather this absolutely perfectly, and anything other than perfect is not going to sit on this railway. You mustn't run this, and this. That has to work with that. As soon as you start that, kids just go, see ya. And they go on their whatever and their mates, and they'll use their imaginations and they'll come up with something that they deem as fun. Okay, as adults, I don't get me wrong, I love railway models that look amazingly accurate. I think it's just a stunning way of doing stuff. Can I do it? No, I haven't got the talent. Can I afford it? No, I haven't got the money. But I want to learn, and I'm going to give them a damn this to get good at this. But as a kid, does that interest a child? Some children maybe. The majority, I don't believe that's a thing. So with model railways, I try and make it fun for Evie. I'll bring her out here and we might make some paper mache hills. Probably never going to use them, but we've made them and it was fun making them. We've, as you all know, we've made God knows what for our railway that's completely wacky. And she loves that. She loves it. And she puts it on the railway. I don't stop her from running it round the tracks. She gets to see her creations at work. Thirdly, I've brought her into the world of YouTube. Now that's a technology element that maybe other people could think about. YouTube is a great way of getting children to look at the hobby and express their their passion for that hobby through YouTube. Now, a couple of examples here. I know a lot of parents aren't keen on getting their children into YouTube, but bear with me here. If your child's made something, like Evie's made the pigs and the animals and the rabbits and all that jazz, puts it on YouTube, the response from the YouTube people, the followers, you lovely people who watch our stuff, your wonderful comments and your little thumbs ups, to Evie, that's like the holy grail of appreciation. She loves that response she gets from you. She gets a real buzz from that, and it makes her want to make more stuff and come in the shed more and make things. So it's an encouragement. So if you have got a child that would potentially like to do a bit of YouTube, don't be frightened to bring them on, involve your hobby, involve the children. They haven't got to be on the camera. They haven't even got to speak. There's a YouTube channel called Alex Trains. Now, I follow him. I've never seen the chap. I don't know how old he is. I'm assuming he's a youngster. You never see him on the film. You never hear him on his voice. And I follow quite a few youngsters who are into model railways to try and encourage them along. Most of them do YouTube shorts, 15 seconds, portrait view on their camera, filming their trains going around their layout. And that's it. But again, the response they get from the YouTube, the thumbs up, the comments, it's a buzz and it keeps them interested, And their channels are brilliant. They're moving quickly along. They're gaining followers, and that in itself is kind of it's exciting, and it's brilliant. And it means they're going to stay in the hobby and do stuff. So involve YouTube, and if you need any help setting up a YouTube channel and you've never done it and you want to get your kids involved and you're not quite sure what to do and you're frightened about anything or want some advice, feel free to email us. You're more than welcome. Okay, so as well as all this stuff which I've tried to do to encourage Evie into the hobby, I think one thing that stands out amongst everything else, and it's something you can't buy, it's something you can't encourage. It's more a case of how we act as parents with our children. I think that is a very, very important thing. And what I mean by that is I have been extremely fortunate, and I'm in a bit of a scenario where myself and my good lady, we work opposite sides of a clock. When I'm at home, Tracy goes to work. When Tracy's at home, I go to work. So just the nature of her work is in hospitality. So it just means by the way it's worked out is we see each other for a few hours a day, but that's kind of it. And ever since Evie came along, I have been a very, very hands-on dad. I've tried not just to be her dad. I've done my absolute best to spend every minute I can with her. I don't go off very often and do things on my own. And if I do go off on my own, she kind of goes, well, why can't I come? Or can I do this? And can I join in? And I think I've spent so much time with her throughout her growing up to the point where we are now. We are such close friends. I've involved her in everything I've done. On our days off, I get Wednesday and Sunday off. Wednesday I'm at home doing things like this, or in the summertime mowing the lawn, washing the cars and that sort of stuff and housework. On the Sunday, it's my day with her. And so we go on the tandem. We go to the beach at Deal and throw stones in the water. We'll do so much stuff on a Sunday. We go off, nowadays go to Heritage Railways if we can afford it. Or we go for a wander around the town, or we'll find something to do, but we do it together. Doesn't matter what it is, we do it together. And I've done this for years with her now. So our Sunday is very important, and we have this amazing bond and friendship where we wouldn't say we crave each other's. No, tell her, I do crave her company. When she's at school, I can't wait till she comes home. And I know that at a weekend, we like to do things together. She's always been with me, and I make a conscious effort not to say, right, you stay here, I'm doing that. Or you go indoors and do what you want to do, I'm going to stay here and do what I want to do. I've always tried to bring her with me and do stuff. So I think one of the most important things we can give our children, especially when hobbies are concerned and interests, is our time and our friendship. And then to a point, no matter what hobby you do, they'll just like being along. And I think that's half of our bond in this hobby, is that I've come back into model railways, and just by natural turn of events on a Sunday, she's with me anyway. And so if I'm doing something, she's with me. And so I could have been into anything. I could have gone into fishing. I could have continued model car racing if I really wanted to. I could have been into anything, scale electric, anything. And she'd have come with me. And she'd have been sat right next to me doing all this stuff. So yes, you've got the appeal of the YouTube, which she loves. Yes, you've got the appeal of having the fun in the shed, making things that you're probably not going to be using half of it, but it's there and you've made it, and it's the fun you have along the way. You've got to make this fun and enjoy your time together. There's not a price in the world you could put on that amount of fun and the time spent together. And that's the biggest thing we had when she first made her pigs. The comments we got was, that's a waste of money. You bought these wagons for threepence each. Well, that's like £2.50 each. And you've let her wreck them. I haven't let her wreck anything. I've spent £2.50 per wagon on 3 tankers for her to start with, which is, ridiculously cheap money. And had a complete afternoon in the shed teaching her new skills and having fun. What can you buy for under 15 quid that have that much entertainment value? And to top it all, we put it on the internet, and she got a load of lovely feedback, which was again a big booster to want to do it again. And I think as parents, we need to kind of look at that and go, maybe we can do things in a different direction to encourage them along, and not think of it as wasting a perfectly good model on our railway by putting sticky bob eyes on it and fluff and tails and ears. It's creative, and that's what she loves. Being with me is what she loves, and being creative is what she loves. And pick out your children's what they like to do. We had a brilliant video. I'll put it up in the corner here in a second. Sent to us from a lovely chap who has created his layout on Animal Crossing, the computer game, which as soon as Evie saw this video was just epic. She was, this is banging, absolutely banging, an Animal Crossing themed railway layout. I mean, oh my God, she was so excited about this. And then to top it all, in come a bit of Wallace and Gromit at the end. My favourite animated TV series or programme. Wallace and Gromit is legendary, and that scene with the model railway and Gromit's there giving it all of this for the track is just epically amazing. And this guy's created all of this, and it put such a smile on our faces seeing this clip that he sent to us. It's brilliant, and that's what you got to do. You want to catch their imagination. If your kid's into Pokemon, for example, use that as a theme for a layout. Get them excited about Pokemon, and pick that as a theme. Don't be frightened to go on eBay and buy some cheap wagons, a bundle of, 10 wagons for 20 quid or something. They're all a bit knackered and broken. Convert them into Pokemon stuff, and get creative with your kids. And that'll in itself draw them into a hobby. Now, that's not saying that they'll stay with it for life. They could do exactly what I've done, been in it for a little while, walked away, and come back at a later date. And that's perfectly normal, but it's planting that seed at the start that is important. Like I said, I've no doubt Evie will go away now and do other things in her life, but I'm pretty confident at some point in life she will come back and do something else with the hobby. So finally, let's look at some questions that have been pummeled around the internet recently. And the first big one, the huge question that's going around is questioning the price of our hobby. It's questioning the price being putting people off joining in the hobby. And this has got 2 levels. And I think the first one, and the argument for this, is that pricing is killing the hobby. I don't 100% agree with this at all. I don't think it's there at all, but it definitely has an element. Now, depending on what you're looking at. Give an example of this. We were in the Hornby Visitor Centre last year, and a massive, obviously, part of the model shop. All the Hornby product is there. And the ladies in there with their family and the kids, and they've done the tour of the museum, and they've come out into the model shop. And they're looking at locomotives, brand new locos. Price tags of £250, £300 and more. Looking at cost of rolling stock at £25, £30 for a tanker, and then 50 quid for a coach. They're looking at sets at £200 plus. And I heard this lady say out loud, this is ridiculous. How am I ever going to get my kids into this? What a stupid hobby. And how can they justify these prices? So there, you've instantly put someone off at that point. They're out the door. They thought it was a day out at Hornby, and they've been shocked at the hobby prices and walked away. You lost that customer now for good. Okay, you're going to really struggle to get them back on your side, despite the kid going, "Oh, I want one of these." Brr. The parents going, "Sod that, it's too expensive. Here, Johnny, you're going to have a computer game for 50 quid and you're well away for days on end of entertainment." So that's one side, and yes, price does have this massive effect. Is it a do-all and end-all? Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest. The cost of this hobby is totally set by the person doing the hobby. Okay, in my opinion. Okay. Now, if you're patient and you wait, everyone has a sale at some point. Okay. Now, for example, I picked up one of these, a brand spanking new Hornby Mallard. Okay, a beautiful model, absolutely unbelievable. And I picked that up at Hornby Direct for £90. I can't see a problem with that. It's super detailed. It looks stunning on the track. Absolutely fantastic. Secondly, at the TMC sales a little while ago, just before, was it after Christmas? Just before Christmas it was. A Railroad. Okay, Colas Rail Freight. Really nice loco. It's a Railroad Plus actually, so it has got different features on there as well. It's a Class 67, really, really nice bit of kit with lighting. I think we paid something like 60 quid for that. Again, brand new. So, yes, the very latest and greatest models are expensive, £200, £300, £400, or whatever they are, But you don't have to buy them. And especially with starting out children in an unknown hobby, I wouldn't think of even buying that. I wouldn't be buying 300 or 400 quid locos. That's your choice to go and spend that amount of money. Most areas will have a second-hand model shop or somewhere of getting second-hand parts. You have the internet, eBay, that sort of stuff. And you can pick up locos, even from my local shop, £18 each. You can buy bundles of track for next time. People are giving track away half the time. It doesn't have to be even nickel track. It can be old steel track, which you can pretty much pick up for free these days in different places. So the hobby doesn't have to be expensive. We only make it expensive with the things that we want to have the latest and greatest and best. You're being put off by new prices of new stuff. Look in the second-hand market. You could go on eBay and shake your hand, Shed Model Railways, post a video only last night, picking up a loco. I think it was 3 or 4 wagons for 25 quid. How is that expensive? How is that expensive? You're only setting the limit of how much you want to spend, and from beyond then, if the children want to get more involved and do more stuff, then you can put a baseboard down. Then you can start buying second-hand trees. Rocket Railways are doing bags of trees, proper decent trees, for something like £7. You go to Hornby and you'll pay £13 for one. And I think, like I said, the whole price thing, it's a non-entity for me if you look in the right area. Again, as adults, we're encouraging our children into this hobby. We've got to look at the realities of it and say, look, okay, you haven't got this really top-end, high-end diddly firkin, but you can have this one, and it's just as much fun. And if you want to have more detail, you add it. You can learn modelling skills and add detail later. So I don't think price. Yes, it has an effect directly if you see only new stuff, but if you're trying to encourage someone into the hobby, you encourage them at the lower price. And I don't think that's a valid argument to say, oh, it's killing the hobby, because it isn't. There's plenty out there at a cheaper price. Well, that's that said. I didn't mean to go into that big rant there, but I did. Okay, so I think, and maybe I think, again, shake your hand, Shed Model Railways brought us up the other day. Maybe manufacturers need to look at reforming the train set. Okay, going away from the whole, you get an oval, a loco, and 3 coaches. Maybe it's a build it kit where you get like an end to end with an Inglenook challenge. I think that was a brilliant idea Paul had. Make a set where it's an Inglenook challenge with games involved. You could have the wagons themed on something. You could have, we'll take Evie's animals for example. You get 3 pigs, 3 sheep, 3 cows. Set up a challenge. Get all the cows into one siding. Anything to try and engage children in a game on the railway, not just a loop that goes around in circles forever and does nothing whatsoever. Let's just try and involve something a bit more in that. Maybe that's something manufacturers could look at, but who knows? So on that note, I think I bored you quite long enough with this subject. You must be getting tired of my tones of my terrible monotone voice. So yes, enough of my waffle. I'm going now. I'm going to go and do some work on my layout, have a cup of tea, and go and chat to my wench before she goes to work. So I will love you and leave you. Thank you so much for listening to my ramblings once more. I don't know how you put up with it. And I will see you on the next Shedmouth Junction video. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.